Being the 1920s, the cops didn't have ways of properly identifying the body. Undoubtedly, this was his first murder, although it was never proven. If this story couldn't get any crazier, and we promise you it's going to go off the rails, Petiot decided that he wanted to be the town mayor. Being the trusted town doctor, he actually won the mayorship, but only after he paid some guy to spoil his opponent's speech when the two were debating. At one point, just after he finished his own speech, the town lights all went out and a bunch of fires were started. That was the work of Petiot's man, and when the votes were counted, it was revealed he'd won by a landslide. During his time as mayor, he got busy stealing again, and among other things, he took a drum from the town band and a stone cross that he didn't like much. When he was accused of this, he said he was the best mayor the town had ever had, and those accusations were just his political enemies reeling with envy and trying to taint his good name. In 1927, age 30, he married a 23-year-old woman named Georgette Lablé. You probably wouldn't be too surprised to hear that she is the daughter of a wealthy landowner in the region. They had a kid together, Gerhard, and things were looking up. Even so, Petiot was accused of stealing oil from the town's railroad depot. He was fined 200 francs and sentenced to 3 months in prison, but he managed to get the decision reversed. In 1930, there was a huge fire at the house of a dairy unionist named Armand Debout. When the flames were finally out, his wife was found inside, having been beaten to death with what cops said was a blunt instrument. 20,000 francs were missing too, and police found footprints leading from the house back to the nearby town of Villeneuve-sur-Yonne. On top of that, there were rumors going around that the dead woman had been the mistress of none other than Monsieur Petiot. He'd even been seen near her home on the night of the fire. The witness who'd seen Petiot was Monsieur Fisco. He told the police that he would testify to that in court. But with not many doctors around, he had no choice but to visit Petiot's practice when his rheumatism was acting up. Fisco was given an injection, and 3 hours later, he was dead. Petiot said the man had an aneurysm. You're probably now seeing why he was nicknamed Dr. Satan, but we're just getting into the story. A few years later, all those complaints about him came to the fore, and he was forced to resign as mayor. People were so fooled by the fact that the council resigned with him, saying what had happened was just unfair. In 1932, he got a job on the council himself, but a year later he lost the seat because it had found that he was stealing electricity. The case went to court with the judge saying Petiot's defense was nothing but a fantasy. He was subsequently sentenced to 15 days in jail and handed a 300-franc fine. As usual, Petiot appealed the decision, and later his jail time was suspended. In the end, he stayed out of jail and was only fined 100 francs. Still, that meant the end of his council seat and a bad reputation that was becoming harder to shake off. With his character now tarnished, he made the move to Paris, the city where his cruelty and criminality would soar to new heights. Petiot started what became a very popular practice on the Rue du Pont, using fake documents at times so that people thought he was the best doctor around for miles, and got morphine for just about any condition or illness, which, as tends to happen with highly addictive drugs, had people queuing up every day to see him. He even had the audacity to counterfeit a document that claimed part of his work experience had been as an intern working at a certain mental health institution, although the truth was that he'd been a patient there, not part of the medical staff. He just changed the word interned to intern. As crazy as it sounds, he kept his job after being sent to a mental health facility for his stealing. Later, when he got out and was working again, he was given the médecin de carte so he could write death certificates. Now, he could more easily knock people up. One of his victims was a 30-year-old woman named Raymonde Hans. She went to see Petiot about some painful abscess in the mouth, and it was decided that he'd surgically remove it. After the operation, she never again regained consciousness. He drove her home in that state, and she was pronounced dead a few hours later. Her mother, Madame Anna Croquis, said something just wasn't right here. Her daughter had been in good health despite the abscesses. She ordered an autopsy, and it was found that her daughter had been given a very high dose of morphine. This should have rung alarm bells, but after investigation, it was ruled that the woman had died of natural causes. Not long after, in 1936, Petiot was caught shoplifting, and then when the cops tried to arrest him, Petiot beat him up. It was after this event that the authorities started looking at him more seriously. He ended up in court again, this time crying his eyes out, saying he had one of his funny attacks. He told the court to look at his army record and the fact that he'd at times been mentally ill, and the court didn't charge him in the end, saying that instead he'd been hit with temporary insanity. Still, it pleased the court when they heard that Petiot's wife had arranged for him to spend some time in a sanatorium. Not long after he arrived there, he told doctors that he was actually in good shape mentally and he asked to be released. He said his lapse of madness was due to stress. He lied and said he'd been working on a machine for constipation, a device that literally sucked the poop out of people, and he said the stress of finishing the device had negatively affected his mental well-being. The main psychiatrist for the court wrote that Petiot was firmly imbalanced, but the judge concluded that Petiot was sane enough to go back into society. How very wrong he was. After his release at the beginning of 1937, he actually seemed to start adhering to the law, including taking a break from stealing. Still, his one big transgression was tax evasion, with him claiming he'd earned only about 10% of what he actually made. He went to court again for that, but again he turned on the waterworks, claiming he'd been driven to the crime because of poverty. Yet again, the psychopath walked out of court with a great big grin on his face. As you know, in 1939, war broke out, and in 1940, German tanks arrived in Paris. Marshal Philippe Pétain became the head of the Vichy government, and French life was about to change in many ways. For a lot of people, this was a distressing time, but for a psychopath, it afforded many new opportunities. One of Petiot's first moves was making fake medical certificates. You see, many French folks were told by the Nazis that they'd now be working for them, and that meant a kind of slave labor. It seems they could get out of this with a medical certificate, and Petiot was the man to go to for one of them. On face value, it looked as though he was on the side of the French resistance. He treated French people who'd been wounded or fallen ill in Germany, and to those people, he learned a lot about the movements of Nazis and the Gestapo that was busy trying to hunt resistance fighters. He helped spy the Gestapo through something he called the Fly Talk Network. He then gave information to resistance fighters so they could assassinate members of the Gestapo. This is what he told people anyway. Maybe it sounds quite heroic to you, given what would have happened to Petiot if he'd been found out. The Nazis would very likely have tortured and killed him. But remember, he was a psycho, and because of this, he made up stories all the time to make it look like he was helping the resistance. He even told them he had some kind of super weapon that could be used to kill a Nazi and make it look like death was possible. He told a big tale about working with some anti-fascist Spaniards in Paris, and he spun all kinds of lies about making bombs and booby traps with which he killed plenty of Nazis. All these stories only ever really happened inside his own head, but they were about to help him make lots of money. He started telling people, mainly Jews and resistance fighters, but even criminals, that he could get them safe passage out of France and to somewhere safe on another continent. All they had to do was hand him 25,000 francs. In 1941, he bought a house on Rue de Sueur and used it to hide these people before they were sent on one of the so-called underground railways to someplace like South America. Two of his customers were Joseph Rieucroux and Adrien Estebeke. These guys had been checked, but what really irked the Nazis is that they committed an armed robbery while wearing Nazi uniforms. It was definitely a death sentence if they were caught. Petiot, now calling himself Dr. Eugène, told them no sweat. He could easily get them out of France. These two guys went to the house on Rue de Sueur, followed by their lovers and also another couple who were said to be a pimp and his prostitute. And presto, all six of these people did in fact disappear. But rather than spend time and money getting them to South America, Petiot took their money and killed them. They weren't the only ones to go to that house and not get what they wanted. And so many people heard about this place where you could visit and then vanish that Petiot got quite the name. We don't need to tell you that he killed them all. But to others, it looked as though they'd safely escaped France. Even the Gestapo heard these rumors, with the commander saying this mysterious man had to be caught immediately. Gestapo documents that were later found noted that there was a great deal of talk in public about an organization